Let's hear from Sean in Liverpool, who thinks the death penalty is the only way to deal with the 10-year-old Mr. Venables. Go ahead, Sean.
I can see why you brought that other stuff up then, brought me on, George.
Yeah, me too.
Are
you ashamed of yourself?
Hey, George, well, arson and the heinous crime these Venables and Thompson did, you can't compare with it, can you?
You can't compare hanging a 10-year-old child. Are you? What kind of sick person are you?
I know, George.
Have they just let you out for the weekend?
George,
what kind of sick man comes on the radio and advocates the hanging of a 10-year-old child?
You haven't heard me point, George. I haven't made me point yet.
I know your point because it's written in front of me.
Well, you've got
and
it
I'm asking
wrong,
you. I'm asking you if you're ashamed of yourself.
No, because
if you feel
don't
you'd
me
be,
point yet,
would you have been there in the front ranks, jeering as that 9-year-old boy was hanged in 1629?
That was arson. Yeah, you can't compare that. And anyway, that's not my point. My point is, I wouldn't have hung those two 10-year-old boys. My point is, when this Venables character got released on licence, I would have had a rule on that. If he would have breached that licence, then I would have hung him.
Here's Phil in Leeds. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, George, I just think you need to calm down a little bit.
Well, if you were
listening to anybody.
If you were sitting in my seat, you'd find it difficult to calm down.
George, I've followed you, and I understand a lot of your points. I disagree with some of them. But I don't think you're actually listening to the people.
Well, I'm listening to him. I'm listening to him. He said that we should have put him in prison at 10, and then if he breached any conditions, we should have hung him at 18, or hung him at 27. What's wrong with you people? What is it that's in your blood? This bloodlust of hanging people, putting ropes round people's necks and hanging them. That makes you the same as the murderer, for God's sake.
Why? Because are you not listening to me, George? Are you not listening?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Right. I was a 60-year-old lad. I got involved in a fight. It was the first offence. Me and this guy had a fight. I got locked up. I got 28 days, right? And in the youth detention centre under the short, sharp shock, right? I learned a lesson, George, right? I've not been in trouble since, so I was one of the lucky ones. But I don't believe that you're listening to people 100%. When you get on your high horse, George, and I've listened to you, I've watched you, I agree with a lot of things you say. I disagree with some of the things you say, but you get sometimes where you do not want to listen to anybody.
No, I don't want to listen. I don't.
George.
Phil, I don't want to listen to people advocating the hanging of 10-year-old children. I don't
want to listen to that,
because
George.
it's obscene.
I've been dead.
It's obscene.
And I've got 2 children now that they're doing really well in society. I'm following. I want to do the best for my 2 children, but under your rules, George, I would have been either not necessarily hung, but I'd have done more time in society.
Well, I don't think you'd have been hung if you only got 28 days as an alternative.
Yes, George, and I got out after 17 because I hated it.
So 17 days.
And it was murder. It was an absolute. And I think what we should do.
What do you mean
now
it was murder? You committed murder.
People.
You got 17 days for murder.
No, George. I got 28 days for the fight.
You're comparing your 28 days with those who are advocating the hanging to death of a 10-year-old child. What, are you going to hold them while we hang them? Yeah? Keep hold of him so that we can get the rope round his neck and hang a 10-year-old child. For God's sake, man. Go and lie down in a darkened room.